Hey guys, really quick one today. We've just stocked up on all of the Walking Dead range from Mantic, including the new releases for the Call to Arms expansion. So what that is essentially a new set of rules and new cards that allow you to make the Walking Dead game a little more PvP focused. Now, a lot of people have been asking questions about what they need to pick up if they want to be able to play the Call to Arms game, because obviously there are new booster boxes containing, for example, the prison faction. Now, do you need to buy this if you want to play the new game, if you already had, for example, the Safety Behind Bars expansion? The answer is no, you don't. So let's hop up to the office and talk about what you actually need if you want to start playing Call to Arms. It's remarkably cheap to get into, so I'll see you upstairs. And we're up in the studio. Hey, everybody. Yeah, just in the side office, just to give you guys a little look at what you actually need. If any of you guys are actually thinking of having a go at grabbing a copy or actually playing the game, let us know. We can answer some questions. But the biggest question that we've had come through to things like customer service tickets and stuff is, if I already own the original Walking Dead game, the core sets, what do I need in order to play PvP style? Essentially, it is just a new rule set. So, like you see on the table in front of me here, you do need, and I would say these two are the most important things, the equipment cards, which you can buy for about £8.50, and the actual Skirmish Battles rulebook. These two parts of the game give you everything you need to know to use the miniatures that you already own to play the PvP style rule set. Now, these cards are new, they're exclusive, and this rulebook contains all of the information that you will need. It contains actual copies of the character cards, for example. They have been reworked to work in a more PvP style. So you do not need to buy the new sets. You do not need to get yourself for example, this box set, which contains all of the characters. This is Rick's faction, focused in the prison. If I was to open this up, you will see that you could buy Rick's faction from the prison if you didn't already own them. And this would come with a variety of the character cards that you'd need to play with, which is really handy. As you can see, there's a lot more detail on them. They've been tweaked. They come with their faction rules. All of this stuff is really important. But if you already own these miniatures, if you already have Michonne, if you already have Prison Guard Rick, and you want to play with them, you don't have to buy this box again. You just have to pick up the Walking Dead rulebook. You can, if you wish to have the physical cards to play with, which I think does help a lot. You can pick up a box of the cards themselves, which will give you all of these cards too, just to go along. Say you're somebody who's already got every single box. You absolutely do not have to buy more miniatures to play the game. These do come in nice pre-built army boxes. So if you want to play as the Woodbury army, which would be the Ruthless faction, if you want to play as the Lawful characters, there's already a pre-built faction here. But I think the important thing to remember is, you have the three factions. You probably already own these factions, and this rulebook will give you the tools you need to actually be able to play with them. So you want to play as Brian Blake and the Ruthless guys. If you want to play as, for example, Rick Grimes, Prison Guard Rick, as you can see in this box set, and the Lawful faction, you can buy these boxes. You can buy the card boxes, or you can just get this information from the book. At the back of the new rulebook, it has all of the character cards as well. So if you're someone like myself who likes completion, then by all means grab the box and get the cards. But you absolutely do not have to buy these miniatures if you already own them. So I believe that was probably the biggest complaint or the biggest query that people had. Do they need to purchase even more miniatures to play the Call to Arms expansion? No, you don't. You can buy the cards separately. You can buy the miniatures boxes if you don't already have a faction, which come with the cards specifically for the guys in the box. Or you can grab none of that and just get yourself the card packs to see all the different characters there and all the different special rules. It's actually very simple, very intuitive. So, like I said, the two things that should be on your list if you want to have a go at playing Call to Arms is going to be the new core book with all the campaign details in, all the new miniatures cards in, and the equipment cards. These equipment cards are not found in the book here, so you would have to pick these up. So it's not very expensive to upgrade your game, if you like, to the new book, or to the PvP version of the game rather. Nice and simple. Grab yourself a Call to Arms book. It'll give you all of the rules for the items in here, all of the new weapons there, but you don't get the cards, which make the game that bit easier to play. And if you want to build your armies, like I said, you do not need to go out and buy those boxes. All the cards do come in the core book for every variety. So for example, you can have, let's start here, you can have either Rick. You don't get to be just one type of Rick, which I think is quite cool. They have markedly different stats if you want to put your lawful army together. You can be Prison Guard Rick. He's obviously got more health. He's slightly more able than the slightly more battered, bruised, and beaten Rick. So yeah, it's really easy to get into the Call to Arms game. What's that? I believe you had expressed some interest. Oh yeah, so if somebody's interested in this, this should help you get into it a bit more easily. I don't think it was the easiest to understand that you don't have to buy new boxes at all. So I personally already have the prisoner cards, the prisoners from the Safety Behind Bars set. So if I grab up Axel, there we go. His card shows that he's neutral. I want to play as the prisoners, so I will probably be pairing them up with the original Rick from the original starter box, because the prisoners can go with lawful or vengeful, and getting my game in that way. So it's a relatively simple way to get playing. There we go. No other questions really. Just wanted to keep it quick and easy for today, so it wasn't too much for you guys to take on. But yeah, definitely, if you're interested in, there we go, in upgrading your Walking Dead game from just the all-out war to something slightly more PvP focused, check out the Call to Arms book. Check out the equipment cards, which you'll probably find more useful than using the charts at the back, which obviously is in here, but I find the cards are a hell of a lot more useful than these. And you know, if you do want individual character cards, you can grab these. These boxes are £12.50. So if you're going to be playing as, for example, the Atlanta Camp, Rick's faction, any of the lawful characters, you want the not the British one, you want the lawful factions card. So which is going to cover people like Michonne, who's neutral, Lee and Clem, if you have the exclusive miniature, Rick Grimes in all his incarnations. If you want to play maybe as the Governor, if you want Brian Blake, if you want to play a slightly more nasty characters, any of the Hunter characters, you want to be grabbing the Ruthless box. Or just get the book because it's got everything you need in there. So it's a really, really accessible expansion where really you just have to purchase the book. But I personally would be getting the cards too. We've got loads of them in stock if anyone's interested in having a look at them. So yeah, check it out and let us know what you think. Would this work well with Zombicide miniatures? They have obvious Rick clones. That's true, they do. You know what? That's actually a really good point. Let me jump back onto my main camera. So this core rulebook is really all you need to expand your game. If you wanted to, although the scale is different, people use alternate sculpts all the time for all sorts of games. So we were playing Fallout the other day, and there was a really awesome alternate sculpt for the Mysterious Stranger, which would come from another miniatures company. It was Bad Squiddo, and it was a load of mole rats in a trench coat, which was brilliant. So yeah, you absolutely can use alternate miniatures. However, scale, the Call to Arms scale is, if anyone who's familiar with the Walking Dead board, it's quite a small board. They have made it slightly larger to facilitate the scenarios and people moving around. So if let's have a look. If I grab one of the scenario pages, let me just make this so you can see what I'm looking at here. If I grab one of the scenario pages, you can see the board setup has got 5-inch, 5-inch, 20-inch, 5-inch, and 5-inch as your play zone for the setup on, for example, the supply run scenario, which makes the board that bit wider than what you're used to having. To tell you the exact size of the board off the top of my head, I'm afraid I'll have to go and check. But yeah, that's, you're looking at 20, 30, 40-inch board along, and then across I'd have to get back to you on that. But yeah, if you're using alternate miniatures, do consider the scale of those miniatures. Hey Lloyd, how you doing? Hey Sean, hope you're well as well. But yeah, let me move this back to the center. Thinking of getting into the Walking Dead Call to Arms, that's all you need. If you've already bought into the previous itinerations of the series. So that's a really useful bonus. I would place this above the character cards because I find you're only going to be using 5 characters, and you could A4 sheet those. Then if you want to go a bit further in, you can grab yourself the actual character cards here. That's if you already have everything. If you just decided you fancy playing as, for example, a Ruthless faction, and you don't mind that this is a pre-built pack, you would get the Governor. I believe that's his trophy room pose as well, so I think it might be quite hard to get this Governor pose. Someone can probably correct me if I'm wrong there. And then the rest of the people that come with him, and they, just as I've already opened up the Lawful pack, will come with the cards specific to them. You will also get, so for example, Michonne, sorry, my pronunciation, does come with a Mike and Terry card and special rules for Mike and Terry. However, these are all in the book as well, and several items that they can be used. So the Atlanta faction, who you'd be playing as if you were to be playing as Rick and his guys, has upgrade options using pistols, I believe. So this is important to that faction as well. Yeah, so basically that's kind of it. Yeah, the Atlanta Camp faction rules. So the Atlanta Camp faction rules specifically show the different things that affect them, and following upgrades available to survivors with the Atlanta Camp faction icon. So the Colt Python, that weapon is only available as an upgrade to people in the Atlanta Camp. So let's find a card for somebody in the Atlanta Camp. It's just going to be Rick. Special rule. Let's find it. The faction icon, sorry. So you've got your faction icons down here. The L is that they're lawful. You get neutral and ruthless, and then the hat dictates the faction icon. The only faction that I believe at the moment that isn't actually in, obviously Michonne is neutral, doesn't really have a faction. The only faction that isn't in there is the Kingdom. So I was really, really upset that I couldn't play with my Ezekiel in Call to Arms, unfortunately. Do I get all of the cards from the equipment pack between the Lawful and Ruthless boxes? Do I really need to pick up the equipment deck? Right, so I'll tell you what. This is the equipment deck. That's the Ruthless faction. Let's open the Ruthless faction box. Let's have a look. I don't think you get... Oh, okay. Right, I was unaware of this. Good job I opened this up. These markers... So we had these when we played at Mantic. When we did the pre-release and looked at this game. These markers, I didn't think they were coming in the actual game. So these are designed to clip onto your cards here and follow as like a point score track. Okay, that's not that important either. But yeah, you get the equipment cards in here specific to these guys too. So the Lawful box, the equipment one, that was Rufus. The Lawful box, because that covers the Atlanta faction, should also come with that Colt Python. Okay, but there's no neutral faction box. There are an awful lot more cards than just those that are specific to the factions. So I guess if you were, planning on just playing with the those, it wouldn't be necessary. So that's kind of up to you to decide. So that's the amount of cards you get in the items box, and then those you only get that many in the Ruthless box. So those are going to be specific to the Ruthless faction. Interestingly enough. Oh no, that's not Michonne's card there. That's just an advertisement for The Walking Dead. I was going to say, interestingly enough, hers is in this faction pack. I would have thought it would have come in the Lawful one, to be honest. Yes, and it does, because it's shown on the box of the Lawful one. So Michonne's card definitely comes in the Lawful box, rather than the Ruthless box. Yeah, I didn't know that these little tokens are in here either. So there you go. That's that one. And let's just double check. Yeah, it's got the same promotional card cover in there. And then you've got your Lawful Dex reference cards there. So to answer your question, Dan, all the cards from the equipment pack between the Lawful. You do not. I was under the understanding that the cards in the equipment deck were going to be unique to the equipment deck and encompassing. But, like I said, if we go to the back of this book, we should be able to find those cards listed in here somewhere as well. So ranged weapons, I'm assuming the Colt should appear in it. Colt Python, that appears here, just where my finger is. So yeah, every card is in here. I personally just prefer playing with the cards. So yeah, all you do need is this one rulebook. Hey Amit, how you doing? Yeah, so you absolutely do not need to buy anything other than the Skirmish Battles book, which actually I was somewhat mistaken. I thought you did need the equipment cards as well. So that's my fault for perhaps not going all the way to the back of the book as thoroughly as I could. So if you were to have bought this and you'd bought this, you would double up on the Colt Python. I'm guessing if you also then bought this, you'd have 3 Colt Python cards. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because anybody with the Atlanta Camp logo can upgrade to that. I don't believe it's a unique weapon. And, you know, points-wise, maybe you do want all your prison guards to be carrying Colt Pythons. So, you know, there is that. What have we got there? No problem. Yeah, so hopefully that covers that. Let me just pop this back in the box. There we go. But yeah, that's any other questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, that's the 3 factions that you might most likely be looking at: Woodbury factions, Atlanta Camp factions, and prisoner factions. So you've got the governor's mugshot there, you've got Rick's hat, and you've got behind bars prison. Then if we have a look at the Atlanta Camp card, for example, that's the Atlanta Camp rules. Every faction has its own rule set as well, which affects how the game plays. So yeah, what I like about this is they've done a really good job of just honestly going, you know what, our existing game is great and people fight each other anyway. We're just going to release basically an update which changes the rules slightly, tweaks the character stats so they're more balanced for PvP. So it'll be familiar to anyone who's like a PC gamer. When you go from solo to PvP, sometimes the rules get tweaked when you're in the PvP arena because it's not necessarily as balanced to use the solo play or other game rules in there. So yeah, pretty accessible, I would say. Let me go back to table cam. Anyway, on that note, wink, wink, what's that? Since these boxes have been opened and the rulebook thoroughly fingered through, technically they are now secondhand. I'll take this off your heavy discount price. Wink, wink. Oh, I imagine you would. I'll see what we can do in terms of promotions at some point, because it's been a long time since you've done a Golden Goblin sticker. But we're going to play with these, and we do have some demo sets at the store if anyone wants to come and have a little leaf through and have a look at these. So there we go. Total basics. Choose your faction. Unless you want to buy a pre-built one, then you can go for that. There we go. You can get upgrading your game for not very much indeed. Right, on that note, I shan't take any more of your time. Yes, oh yeah, it is a standalone essentially. It's not just an expansion to the regular cool all-out war game. It is taking the miniatures you might already have from the all-out war game. It changes the stats of the characters, the abilities, introduces changes to the game. So there's no more threat meter. So anyone who is familiar with the Call to Arms, the All-Out War, there's the threat meter. The way the zombies work is slightly different. So the walkers work differently, and it's objective focused. So a lot of people would perhaps free play in that way, but what Mantic have done is they've really refined the rule set. And having played it, I'm going to put onto YouTube publish a game, well, a talk about a game I had a couple of weeks ago at Mantic before this was released. Um, it plays quite differently, and even if it does just devolve into a shooting match, if you're someone like me and then the walkers come and run at you, it's nicely different. So bigger table, different rule set, a lot more scenarios to play through. Yeah, have a look at it. If you want to look at this in store, if you're close by, come and have a look at the rule book, learn a bit more about the game, have a look at some of the boxes, and that's cool. Anyway, I should take no more of your time. You guys have an awesome day.